Ooh, excuse me. You. Hope you've been having a great week. I'm excited to be back with you. I look for a good conversation today. Let me see what I gotta do. Do 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 do. Turn the screen on. All right, here we go, family. We in here, man. I'm looking extra chocolate. Extra chocolate. For real, for real. All right, family. Let me get my brain together. I feel a little disoriented. Glad to be back with you for another episode of Soul Swami Live. If this is your first time here, this is Soul Swami Live, where we discuss healing in all its various forms through live energy readings, discussions, homework activities, and learning new information, all in an effort to create a collective energy that allows us, that supports our evolution of becoming the best version of ourselves, right? We understand that healing is a communal effort. You need support. You need other people that's in the boat with you doing the same things, and that's what we do here. Um, we have shows every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do all those things so you get the notification when we go live. Tonight we are still continuing our assessing of how we're functioning in our ego, and tonight is image, status, ego. And if we have the time, we'll get to the knowledge ego, one of the ones that I identify with very, 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 very closely. Generally, at the beginning of every show, we do a little bit of energy work. And this week, we are on the throat. The throat is. Let me cut that off. Okay, so the throat is the energy point for your authenticity, your communication, how you express yourself, and the truth. Yours, mine, and all the various forms of truth that we interact with in our lives. If you are into color therapy, the color for your throat is light blue. So wear some light blue clothes, eat some light blue food, spend some time in some light blue light. All of those are good things to help activate the energy of your throat, your communication. If you are into essential oils or aromatherapy, you want to think chamomile, peppermint, cypress, bergamot are all good for your throat. I'm always amazed that peppermint is one of the more versatile scents that you can get. It's very good at keeping animals away. So sprinkle some peppermint oil around your garden and stuff like that. It keeps some of the animals away. They don't like to mess with peppermint like that. It's also good to help you get relaxed when you're going to sleep. Spray a little bit on your pillow, and it works almost like lavender, even though it has more of a punch. If you are into crystals and gemstones, you want to think turquoise, lapis lazuli, aquamarine. That's what I want next. I want some aquamarine. And blue lace agate. All of those are good examples for stones, crystals, or gemstones that will support the energy of your throat, the communication. The next thing we do during this time is a little bit of sound healing. I didn't bring out the big bowls. Honestly, my spirit did ask for the drum, so I'm gonna bring out the drum though. The big drum. I call this the big drum because it is a larger 12-inch rain drum. But I call it the big drum because we also got a smaller one that is on the frequency of your heart. They give you these little tap things. Whoa. So next we do a little bit of sound therapy, as I was saying, and then we'll do some breath work, affirmations, and get started with the show. So during this time, all you really have to do is just relax, clear yourself of the stressors and the energies of today, and get ready for something that will feed your soul and spirit. So again, during this time, all you do is just relax and listen to the sounds. Boo, boo, boo. Oh, that sounded bad. You heard that, family? It sounded terrible. Next, we will do some breathing exercise, some breath work, and we're going to do box breathing, 4-4-4. If you are unfamiliar with box breathing, it is you breathe in for a 4 count, or inhale. You hold for a 4 count, and then you exhale or breathe out for a 4 count. But during this time, all you really have to do is just listen to the sound of my voice. Excuse me, as I guide us through the breathing, the breathing exercise. On the count of 3, family, we will start with box breathing. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Next, we're going to do some affirmations. These are things that you can say to activate the energy of your communication and to remind you of your value and worth in this world. So all you have to do is repeat after me and incorporate these things and integrate these things into your routines, whether daily, weekly, monthly. Just make sure you're starting to affirm who you are. I speak and hear truth. I communicate honestly. I live an authentic life. I am fearless and free. I trust what I have to say. I speak and hear truth. I communicate honestly. I live an authentic life. I am fearless and free, and I trust what I have to say. Trust what I have to say. All right, family. Now we can get the show started. This is going to be your weekly reminder that you can purchase. There we go. 7 Spaces of Healing for Yourself. It is a good foundational book to help you conceptualize 7 spaces that you want to cultivate within yourself and to make sure that you are part of the same 7 spaces. You join them to support your evolution. You need that space for love. You need a space for healing. You need a space for solitude, a space for trust, a space for risk without judgment, a space for accountability, and a space for forgiveness. Support yourself, support the channel, purchase Seven Spaces of Healing, available on Amazon now. It's funny. I moved this book way up here. Oh shoot, what am I doing? Let me just stop before I get over here and mess something up. Be done hung up on us. All right, so we'll start with our general discussions. And I think tonight we're going to do a little bit of Ask Soul Swami. So, oh no, Bumba. Something I want to show you all. Oops. Bumba. So, family, week before last week, because I made it back Thursday in time for the show, I spent a little time in Asheville. Asheville was a very picturesque place to be. It was a beautiful place to visit. I enjoyed it. The food wasn't that bad. But while I was there, I wound up running into a store called Into the Earth, which was a stone store, gemstone, however you want to call it, rocks for the most part. And I copped a couple of rocks, right? So one, I got this orca calcite, right? So of course it gives you the mind of an orca whale with the black and white and the gray. And I specifically picked that one because there's a nice little crack in there where you can see in the inside, and it's a little sparkly on there, so I like that. The light isn't really reflecting it that well, but this is supposed to be a stone that supports forgiveness. And this is probably my favorite of it. It's the Mangano. And although it's kind of hard to see, it really is kind of a pink stone. But it glows under black light. Put some black light on it, and it will glow for you. They think of this as the spiritual hug, Mangano stone. I like it. It's like a giant marble. I'm trying to see if you can see the patterns in it very well, but no, you can't. So, and then this one is labradorite. And I like that blue shows up amazing on this light. That light reflects very well off of it. It is the bluish green tint that called to me. And this is more of a protective stone. But that blue, of course, it connects to your throat. Oh, which is good. So these are 3 stones I got in Asheville that I'm excited about. I love them. I think they are great additions to the family of stones that sit across the front of the desk. Outside of my favorite, the amethyst. This is my red amethyst. And my rose quartz that I carry that. It travels with me. It's just in my travel bag. Hey, Toddy. Something else I kind of want to talk about. I was building with one of the younger brothers yesterday, and one of the spaces that we have been growing and evolving into is, like I said, I've kind of attached to the knowledge ego. So knowing is important to me. I find value in that, right? And in knowing, there's a sense of certainty and stability and safety that I feel from knowing. But I've been kind of pushing myself to be in a space of being more comfortable with not having to know. And when I say having to know, that's not just knowing the answers, but it's being able to predict the outcome. So, like, if I start dating you, I'd like to know if we gonna get married, right? And I've already talked about how that thought process can be somewhat of putting the cart before the horse. So I think I was having, well, not I think, I know I was having a conversation with the brother, and something that I'm kind of proud of myself, and something I was trying to get him to understand is the question around, do you want, right? So when asked, do you want something, whatever it be a person, be a food, be anything, it's just, do you want, right? And I can honestly say yes, right? But the lesson and the growth comes in the next question. Because generally, when someone asks you, do you want, the follow up question can be, are you sure? And most of the time, we want to answer that with affirmative for various reasons that motivate us to be able to say, yes, I'm sure, right? But in that certainty, it also can create somewhat of a cage or a prison for us on where we limit the other possibilities and the other options and tools that we have to be able to navigate life. So when me and the brother were having this conversation and it came around, are you sure? I was able to communicate to him, no, I'm not sure. And that is okay. So I don't have to have the answers, right? And me being able to say that out loud and hearing the brother be able to say that out loud, it winds up creating a certain level of comfort and understanding, and removes a layer of stress of just having to know. And it allows us the space to be able to change our minds and adjust as new information is given to us, right? So I say all this to you so that you can be aware on if you find value and comfort and safety in knowing, and how do you feel when you don't know, right? So think about that. Next, we're going to do a little tools, something we've done once or twice, but we're going to do it tonight. It is, let me see, doop doop, asshole Swami. I need to boop 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 doop boop doop boop boop doop boo. I need to make a beat for asshole Swami. Boop doop boop doop boop boop boo. That's it. That sounds important. So tonight we're gonna have a question, or I'm gonna give you a scenario, and we're gonna discuss it a little bit. I'm curious to know what you would think, right? So you want to think about who is wrong. Was there some dishonesty? Is there some obligation? Should some decisions have to be made? So the question is, two people, names have been changed to protect the identities of the people, but the story is something that we hear a lot about. So Sarah, James, both in their 30s, have been together for 6 years, and they talked about marriage often. And Sarah believed that they were building a future together. For years, whenever marriage came up, Jason said he wasn't ready. He wanted to be financially stable first, Then he wanted to buy a house. Then he said he needed more time. That's that around that idea of certainty, what I was talking about. He found safety in being financially stable first, or wanting to buy a house first, or said that he needed more time. More time would make him feel more comfortable. Those are the answers. Sarah, she loved him very much, and she stayed trusting or thinking that eventually he would be ready. After about 6 years, Jason broke up with Sarah. He ended the relationship saying that I love you, but I just don't see marriage in my future. And of course, you know that broke Sarah's heart, and she spent a little bit of time trying to move on, several months. And within that time, less than a year, not even 12 full months, she was online and she saw photos of Jason. And Jason was dating someone else, and not just dating someone else, he was engaged. And 3 months after that, he got married. So some of the friends, their mutual friends, started talking to Jason and asked him, confronted him. And Jason's viewpoint was he never lied. He just wasn't ready to marry Sarah. But he was ready to marry his wife, the woman that he did marry. Sarah was devastated, and she felt like Jason had wasted 6 years of her life and used the guise of not being ready as an excuse, when the truth was he simply didn't want to marry her. Some people agreed with Jason and defended him. Some people saying that no one is obligated just because someone has been together for a long time. And some thought that Jason should have been honest sooner if he knew she wasn't the one. And then, of course, some people think you reserve the right to change your mind. Now, first question is, do you think Jason wasted Sarah's time? So what's funny? When I was having a conversation with the young brother, he was talking to me about his relationship specifically, right? And he is one of those people that time matters. If we've been together 20 years, that matters. If we've been together 5 days, that matters. He made the decision. He wants to stick to it. He's one of those people who puts loyalty in front, and he think that time spent is a reflection of loyalty, right? And it was funny because something that I pointed out to him winds up being a major disconnect in the scenario that we were just given. So I pointed out to the brother, I'm like, I see that time matters to you. And I told him, do you know who time doesn't matter to? And he was curious. He was like, nah, who doesn't? I said, it doesn't matter to your woman. If she decides today that she does not want to be with you, no matter how long you've been together, she's going to move on that new information, right? And one of the things I wanted the young brother to understand, that her doing that isn't wrong. And you staying doesn't automatically mean it's right. But what it is another tool to be able to view time, right? So time can be something, an indicator that there is loyalty in space. But time can also be an indicator that you should move on. So there is no right or wrong. And it's ironic that in the story, 6 years' time for Sarah, that 6 years mattered. They've been together. She feel like it's time wasted. And to Jason, he looked at time very differently. The 6 years didn't bother him because when he was ready, he decided to marry someone else. He did that. Time didn't matter how long they've been together. It's something that he wanted and he went for it. So in the first question, do we think that Jason wasted Sarah's time? What do you think? I don't think he did. One of the things that we talked about is boundaries and limits, right? And one of Sarah's issues was she had her boundaries and limits too close together. And they were too far from what she really wanted. And it came off as a lack of boundary, a lack of expectation, a lack of a lot of different things that she did not know that she was conveying in relationships. So if you have an idea that you want to be married, it is okay to decide a timeline for that. And it is okay to remain flexible in adjusting that timeline. So I'm curious, do you think that Jason wasted her time? Next thing we want to think about is, was Jason dishonest by saying he wasn't ready for marriage? Do you think he was dishonest by saying he wasn't ready for marriage? I do not think he was dishonest. In the sense, I feel as though I don't think he was, okay, scratched. I do think that there was a level of dishonesty in Jason, right? But I don't think he was necessarily dishonest to Sarah. He wasn't dishonest to her. He gave her very valid reasons on why he didn't want to get married at that point in time, right? And it's funny because when I was having a conversation with the brother, I asked him a very important question. If you were your best self, would you pick that relationship, right? So where he was in the relationships, he felt like you need to be financially stable first, or you need to have a house first, or you need a little more time to be able to be clear and understand, right? That's that knowledge ego. When you attach to knowing, you become attached to the outcomes. So even though he was honest with Sarah, I don't believe he was very honest with himself, because he saw things that he didn't necessarily like. He saw things that he didn't necessarily want, or he didn't know himself well enough to even be honest with himself, right? So as much as it may seem as though he was dishonest to Sarah, he was more dishonest to himself and who he was, because he wasn't being authentic about what he wanted and what he needed from a relationship, right? So then we also want to think about it in terms of, is a person obligated to know within 6 years whether they would want to marry someone? No one is obligated to know anything, right? And that question ties again to your ideas and how you think about time. Some people think you know within 6 months. Some people think you know after you spend all 4 seasons. Some people think you know after you live together. All of those are very valid tools, are very valid perspectives to see time, to think of time. And one thing that, and it's wild, because I used to say this about women specifically, to the point where there was a certain level of resentment. I used to always say they reserve the right to change their minds at any moment, right? And I learned that from dating. And I was one of those people that once I made a decision, I stuck with it. You make your bed hard, you got to lay in it. And by that, I created my own prison where I wasn't allowing myself to view time in many different ways, right? So now that's one of the reasons why we don't need that certainty, because that certainty will make us fearful of making a decision. So the other thing that Jason wasn't honest about with himself is the fear of making that decision. And we all wonder, is this the right decision? Because we all recognize that we are one decision away from the wrong one, right? So no one is obligated, and we do reserve the right to change our minds, right? So that idea I had to reshape my relationship with, and now I respect it. There's a freedom that you feel from not feeling obligated to do any and everything, right? Now, there are other factors that you need to take in place. But I appreciate the understanding that I do reserve the right to change my mind. I can get this job, find out it's a terrible job. I don't have to stay there just because I'm using it to pay my bills. I can move into this terrible neighborhood. I don't have to stay there because I made this decision to stay there. I can get into a relationship and decide that it's no longer serving who I am. And that's okay. So no one is obligated for any arbitrary time frame that we may apply to ourselves and force that application on others. Now, the last question is, should Sarah have left sooner? I can't say if Sarah should have left sooner. What do you think? Do you think she should have left sooner? I don't know. But what I can say is Jason really reflected what Sarah thought. Even though she's caught up in her own hurt that she feels. But Sarah didn't know either. That's why she spent 6 years there. She is one of those people that once they make a decision, they try to see it through. And even though every time they got close to marriage, or conversations around marriage, this man gave her a different reason to not marry her, she had no expectation for her own life. So whatever someone told her, she took as though it was now her new expectation, right? And we've been talking about ego over the last couple of weeks. We can identify that she was functioning from a wounded ego because her inflated ego showed up. And she overinflated her value in this man's life. And that wounded ego spun into now her seeing herself as the victim. But one of the things that we do here and evolving here is to create some sort of roadmap for our lives built on honesty and who we really are. So, one of the reasons why that relationship lasted for 6 years is because they are the same person. They just showed it slightly differently. So, curious. Does Jason waste Sarah's time? Was Jason dishonest in saying he wasn't ready for marriage? Are you obligated after you spent time to marry that person? And should Sarah have left sooner? Which is funny because I've been in that space where I felt obligated because we spent time. And other people didn't feel obligated. They taught me something valuable about perspective of time. So that's that. Next thing we're going to do is start on the show. Last week, well, maybe 2 weeks ago, we were assessing, what was it? Survival ego? Are we functioning in survival ego? So these are several questions that you can ask yourself to see if you are in survival. Where are we at? Scratch. Survival ego. Oh, man. Bomba. I got like 16 rhyme books around here. Nice work. Is this a rhyme book? Yes. Is this the last rhyme book? Yes. Here we go. So, reminder, survival ego. Survival ego is there to protect you. It is a protective thing, right? So, ego is necessary. It is protective as well. So, we want to make sure that we are functioning our ego in a healthy way so that we are using our ego the way it wants to. So, survival ego is the part of self that focuses on safety, security, stability, and self-preservation, right? Self-preservation. It definitely helps you meet our basic needs, which I've been having conversations like that around this idea of I want you, but I don't need you. And I think people confuse basic needs as the only needs. Food, clothing, and shelter are your basic needs. But as humans, we have other needs, like relationships. Healthy relationships, and many in the mammals or in the animal kingdom, including us, need relationships to function. That's why I talk so much about people opting out of their own lives. And then when I say relationships, that's romantic, that's platonic, that's all ideas, that's business relationship. Those are all the relationships that we need to function healthy within our ego, right? So, survival ego helps you meet your basic needs, avoid danger, protect yourself from harm, and create stability in your life. If you're functioning healthy in your survival ego, you will be grounded and secure. If you are functioning unhealthily in your survival ego, you see threats everywhere, right? Had a conversation where I talked about being suspicious. You see threats everywhere, and we can normalize some of these behaviors as protective, but it's leaving us stuck in our survival ego. We ask questions around safety, how we feel about risk, how we feel about threats, how we feel about control, how we feel about scarcity versus trust, and how we function emotionally. Things like, do I generally trust that my needs will be met? Or am I fearful that I got to do extra Even the birds that fly and the creatures that crawl are provided for, but we as humans can get stuck in fearing that our needs will not be met. How much energy do we spend on trying to control or prevent outcomes? A bunch. A bunch. That ties into that need to know. Things like, can I feel vulnerable without feeling completely exposed? Those are some sample questions. If you want to know some more questions, go back to the episode, the last Beyond Ego episode, and ask yourself those questions. Tonight, we are going to do the spiritual ego. And then if we have a little time, we'll go into the knowledge ego, which I'm looking forward to because, as I said, that is my thing. I am stuck in the knowledge ego. Not stuck, but I'm learning how many different ways I have been stuck in the knowledge ego. But tonight we're on the status or image ego. How are you functioning within your image and status ego? What is the status of image ego? It is the part of self that builds identity around how we are perceived by others. Many times we say what others think don't matter. That's not honest. Many of our decisions are based on how it will be perceived. And perceptions are the views of others. We have our own perceptions, but we also have the perceptions of others. There are many arguments around this idea around bonnets in public. Whether you're against it or whether you're for it, both of those perspectives, both of those ideas, for it or against, are based on status and image ego, right? The status and image ego seeks to have approval. It seeks to have recognition. It seeks to have respect. Ironic, I told the young brother, you want respect in your relationship, sometimes even more than love. I've seen people do very strange things in the name of love that they would never do in the name of respect, right? So respect is just as important. Status, image, ego focuses on respect. It focuses on status and the feeling of belongingness, right? A healthy image ego helps us function socially and build relationships and develops a positive reputation where our name precedes us. People know you to do positive things. And that doesn't mean that you always do positive things, but it does mean that your reputation is one that is positive. If we are functioning in unhealthy ways with our status or image ego, we wind up tying our self-worth on validation, comparison, and what other people think or have. Envy, jealousy shows up with that. So, first question we want to ask ourselves as we're assessing our healthy or unhealthy in our status ego is around perception and how we feel about approval. So, one question you want to ask yourself is, do I change my behaviors depending on who is around? Do you change your behaviors depending on who is around? Do you have situational behaviors? Is that something that you recognize? I talked about this specifically as it relates to Black people because that question, that answer will be yes. We do it when we code switch. We change our behaviors when we code switch. I talk about this with children. Children have very situational behaviors. They are different depending on who's around, right? But as we learned a little more about ego, we know that a healthy ego is one. Hey, man. A healthy ego is one where we are consistent. We're the same person in all situations. So, do I change my behaviors based on who is around? For me to answer that question, I would have to say yes. I am still working on making sure I'm functioning in my healthy ego and being the same person in all situations. Good, bad, black, white, doesn't matter. What you see is what you get. And as you get more in alignment with who you are, not the roles that you're supposed to play because of your gender or your title, you will be able to be in a space where you will be the same person in all situations. So, do you change your behaviors depending on the situation? Do you feel uncomfortable when others disapprove of you? Do you feel uncomfortable when others disapprove of you? So, that is a yes and no. It kind of depends on who is disapproving. If that disapproval comes from someone I love, someone I invested in, something, not even someone, something I love, something I invested in, and if they disapprove of me, I do feel uncomfortable. I do try to think of ways to try to repair, reshape, redesign, however it is, that perception, that disapproval, the shame that I feel, the guilt that arises from that disapproval, the need to people please, change their perspective that comes from that. Maybe you deal with that. Maybe disapproval of those you care most about affects you in ways that you aren't conscious of. Recognition and validation. Do you feel disappointed when your efforts go unnoticed? Do you feel disappointed when your efforts go unnoticed? Your image, your status ego. Do you feel disappointed when your efforts go unnoticed? I'm very sometimey with that. It depends on where I'm putting my effort. Sometimes I can give without the need for a thank you. I appreciate you. That anonymous giving, sometimes I enjoy playing the background. It feels safe where I don't have to deal with the uncomfortable feelings of praise. I don't have to deal with that. Makes me feel uncomfortable. It used to make me feel uncomfortable when I get this praise. So, is that disappointed when my efforts go unnoticed? Yes. Again, it's tied to people I love or situations I love. If I'm putting in a bunch of effort, I'm trying to, whatever it is, make things better, I do feel disappointed when that doesn't go noticed. Or even worse, when someone can boldly profess or claim that I'm not trying at all. Like, how am I not trying at all? And I'm putting my best foot forward. In the conversation with the young brother and my homeboy, we talk about the effort that we're putting in the relationships and how it makes us feel if those efforts aren't noticed. They don't even have to be appreciated. They do need to be acknowledged. I see you trying. One of the better compliments that I can give someone is not that you're beautiful. It's not that you're intelligent. It is for me to say, I notice that you are trying. Your efforts are not going unnoticed. That doesn't mean that there isn't more work that we'd have to do. But the fact that you're willing to put in the work is important and should be acknowledged. So we talk about that specifically as it relates to relationship, whether it's a work relationship or romantic relationships. It is important for our efforts to be noticed. And having a moment of truth and transparency with yourself, is it important? Sometimes at work, I remember when I first started working, I used to, and I still got this thing where people are amazed. Not even when I first started working. It's people like, when do you do work? I do work. I study, I do my work. But I just didn't want to bring any extra attention. So I figured everybody is studying and doing work. So no need for me to make a spectacle out of me doing something else. And it was funny because I would have coworkers who were not doing nearly as much work as I was. They'd be running up and down the hall telling everybody how much work they have, how much work they're doing. And I would see that they would reap rewards from being able to vocally communicate that they were actually doing something. And I learned a valuable lesson by that situation. You do yourself no favors by not being vulnerable enough to see people where people can see that you are putting in the work. Right? Next question. Do you mentally keep track of whether people recognize your contributions? Ironically, it's going to be a theme here, which lets me know that my expectations on people are not consistent. Because, again, my answer is going to be depend. So for yourself, do you mentally keep track of whether people recognize your contributions? So when I think about work, I don't always care. And it shows up around evaluation time. Because I generally do self-evaluations. And I never remember half the things I do. And I'm glad that at this point, I have a manager that does. She is very good at reminding me of some of the great contributions that I have put in. And that acknowledgement makes me feel good. But even though at work I don't keep track of it, I don't consciously see the importance of it, I'm glad I have someone who knows that that is still important for me to hear, and she will tell me that. Now, when it comes to relationships, I do keep track. And that isn't saying it's a good or bad thing. Again, we take this process to make sure that we're removing this idea of good or bad, because a lot of these things are neutral until we give it the power of right, wrong, good or bad. It just is. So for myself, I keep track. Not just on them, but on myself, to ensure that I am doing things that support the health of the relationship. And I would like for them to be able to notice and point out that they see me doing these things. And even though I may not call it that, that behavior is keeping tracks. And a lot of times we find ourselves in these situations and we will disapprove of someone keeping track. Are you keeping count? Is this a competition? We say all types of things because we have assigned the value of bad to this idea of keeping track. But unconsciously, we all keep track. We all keep a running tab of what we are doing and how it affects the outcomes of the situations that we encounter. How much does my mood change based on the feedback of others? How much does your mood change based on the feedback of others? I just gave an example of when my supervisor reminds me of some of the great things that I've done throughout the year. I said, I declared, I confessed that it makes me feel good. Right? So if someone can say something that makes me feel good, I also have to think that someone can say something that makes me feel bad. And again, I give that power for it to be good. They may have intentions to be supportive, to help me by what they're saying. And I assign what they're saying as bad because of how it makes me feel, right? But we've talked about feelings a bunch. Emotions are natural. Every word that we encounter, we call it spelling for a reason because it creates an emotion, right? The emotions that these words create are natural. Feelings are the stories that we tell ourselves about these emotions. So at any moment, we have the power to change our feelings by telling ourselves a new story. So does your mood change, or how much does your mood change based on the feedback of others? Comparison. I'm thankful because I was struggling to remember this one saying, and I was thankful that, and it's amazing because I always forget that this person is a PK, a preacher's kid. But when I said it, they reminded me comparison is the thief of joy. Even though it's very much natural, as humans, we've already discussed how natural it is for us to compare, right? But in doing that, we have to be careful because comparison is the thief of joy, right? So how does our image and status ego function in comparison? How do I feel? How do you feel when someone else has received recognition? How do you feel when someone else gets recognition? I guess it depends on if I feel like I deserve that recognition too. Should I be getting that recognition too? So overall, I'm going to say I feel good when someone else receives recognition. But I also know I have moments where I have to battle with envy. Because although I can celebrate your recognition, there's also a side of me that will ask, well, why not me? Why am I not getting this recognition for this? And I don't take into consideration, I do not in that moment, in that emotion, in that feeling, I don't take into consideration is because maybe because I played it back too much. Or maybe because I've created behaviors that do not make me seem, that brings attention to me. Like when I was asking for my birthday gifts, nobody knew what to get me because I don't let people know that. So when it comes to recognition, sometimes I have to feel envy, but I also have to acknowledge, am I in a space where I'm allowing people to be able to see the things that I do so that I can get the recognition? So for yourself, how do you feel when someone else receives recognition? I feel good, and I also feel envy, especially when it's around recognition that I think that I deserve too. Right? Do you measure your worth through accomplishments or status? I consciously try not to measure my worth through accomplishments. And because of that, I'm so far on the other end of the extreme where I don't always value my accomplishments. Sometimes people have to tell me, you've done a lot. I have to remind myself that I've done a lot. I've devalued my accomplishments because I don't want to have this feeling of superiority or I'm better than someone else. I've accomplished things, right? I have not allowed my accomplishments to be who I am. I do not tie my value or worth to the fact that I was an executive director. If I didn't tell you that, you wouldn't know because I don't carry myself like that. I don't use that as a badge of honor. If it wasn't us having these vulnerable moments, you wouldn't even know I had a master's degree. Or that I've traveled all these places because I don't tie my worth to accomplishments, right? But many people do. I was talking to a friend several weeks ago, and one of the more difficult things in that conversation was only thing they wanted to talk about was their accomplishments, how much money they got, how hard they work, all this stuff. Like, I don't want to hear that. And notice I did not say a gender of that person because that is gender neutral. Man, woman, cat, dog. Anybody can be susceptible to tying their value to their accomplishments. And this person did not understand how that did not make them more valuable to me. I don't care what you have accomplished. I want to know who you are. Your accomplishments do not define the totality of your worth and value. Your character does. Because your character helps to shape your accomplishments. Now, your character goes beyond accomplishments, but your character will help to shape your accomplishments. So do you measure your worth based on, do you feel like you are valuable? Like, I never forget, it's the people like this. I meet two type of people with their PhD, right? Those that want you to call them doctor, and those you have no idea that they are a doctor. And that's not saying that either way is right, but that shows that they are functioning in their status ego. Right? There's two ways I meet those people. Do you compare your success, intelligence, appearance, or achievements to others? Do you compare your success, intelligence, appearance, or achievements to others? Do you compare your success, intelligence, appearance, or achievement to others? So, success. Do I compare my success to others? No. But I do use others' success or experience to shape how I view the way I do things. So, like, for example, with the Swami Soul, we've been doing it about 3 years, right? And in my mind, I should be successful, whatever that means. But then I talk to people who have been in this thing, this healing community or spiritual community or whatever we want to call it. And they'll tell me it's been 10, 15 years. It gives me some idea on how to shape my expectation. Maybe it take longer than I thought. And then when I did my research on people who have or are achieving some success that I would like, I found out that they were doing it for years with nobody watching, very few people supporting, before they had those breakthrough moments, right? So when it comes to success, I do compare what I've accomplished or what I would like to accomplish based on timelines. How long did it take this person to do it? Because then it might take me that long, right? Or I learn from how long it took them to do it and implement some of the things that they implemented later in year 10, I can implement in year 3 or 4 to help that process along a little bit. Intelligence, I do. We've been socialized to compare our intelligence to others. Through the whole school system, they separate us by intelligence. Once we on that higher track of intelligence, we try to do intelligent type things like go to college. Even though college is not a reflection of your intelligence, it's just a reflection of your sacrifice and willingness to go to college. We think that. One of the funniest lines that we hear from Precious, like, since you think you know everything, you got your degree and you think you know everything. She ain't just saying that for no reason. People do think that. We think that sometimes, right? I have a tendency, as a matter of fact, when I studied mathematics with that 5%er, they socialize you into doing that. We think of ourselves as 5% that don't believe the truth. Don't believe the lies of the 10%, right? But outside of that, we think 85% of the people are dumb, deaf, and blind. Dumb, deaf, and blind. But what are we comparing it to? The knowledge that we have that someone else might not even think is valuable. There are people in this world that do not think mathematics is valuable. And I will compare myself because I know mathematics and think they are dumb, deaf, and blind. So I do compare my intelligence. I say that I no lie when it comes to the teaching field. I say that the biggest problem that we have in the teaching field or in education is not the shortage of teachers. It is who is going into the education field. There was a point in time where A and B students wanted to be teachers. A and B students want to do something else now. So now we have C, D, and F students in education. That is a comparison of intelligence. I'm thinking A and B students are smarter, are more intelligent than these C and D students, which is not necessarily true. The tests that we take do not measure intelligence. It measures our recollection of information. Can I recall this stuff I've read? Right? There are people who struggled in math, but are very good at the word problems of life. They can figure out all types of life solutions that we can't. No. Next. I'm about to say 10. Do we compare our appearance? Yes. One of the reasons I work out and want to be in shape, I remember me and my friend talked about it because she was saying she got other friends that work out, this couple that she knows. My friend Keeper, I love Keeper. But, she was saying the reason that they work out is because they want to look good in their clothes, right? So one of the reasons I work out is I don't want to be one of the men walking around with no pot belly. All I see is inflammation and problems. I don't want to be that guy. I want my clothes to look nice. I want to look like someone cares. And that someone is me. I care about how I look, so I do compare my appearance to other people based on what I don't want to look like and what I do want to look like. So do you compare your success, intelligence, or appearance to other people? Reputation. Am I concerned about maintaining a certain image? Yes, I am. I like the fact that my reputation precedes me. And depending on how you know me, depends on what reputation you get. Some people get the reputation that comes with peanut. Some people know the reputation that comes with Anthony. And others know the reputation that comes with Soul Swami. And each one of those reputations, I am concerned about the image that it reflects, the perception that people will see. So am I concerned with maintaining a certain image? I even know that in dating, that concern shows up. I've had people think like, well, dating you would be like marrying a pastor. And I'm not a pastor. But my reputation and image of Soul Swami or Anthony, the only way that people can describe it is put me in that. Because a pastor has expectations. People see him and view him or her as a certain way. But those expectations go beyond the pastor, and it goes into who they date, who they're married to, their church members. People have those expectations. So are you concerned with maintaining a certain image? Do you worry about being judged? Do you worry about being judged? No, I don't worry. I think about it, but I don't worry. I don't worry because I know right, wrong, left, right, up, down, doesn't matter. People are going to judge. So there's nothing you can do on God's green earth to escape judgment. People are going to do that. Hell, not just people, we judge. Sometimes we are the harshest critic. We judge ourselves harder than anyone else could. So, do you worry about being judged? Yes or no? Lastly, is social identity, how we are seen socially. A question we want to ask: if your title, if your achievements, if your role or reputation disappeared, who would you be? Who would you be without your title? Who would you be without your achievements? Who would you be without your roles or reputation? And that's a very good question, because without those things, many of us will feel like we're nothing, right? So for me, if I lost those things, I would still consider myself a survivor. And I would understand that because I am a survivor, I can get those things back. You got it once, you can get it twice. So for you, if your titles, achievements, or roles, or reputation disappeared, who would you be left with? This is one of the examples of why I say we don't want to just shape our identity around our experiences, because we still have title, achievements, roles, all those things that help define us beyond just our experiences, right? That question winds up being one of the more difficult questions that people have to answer for themselves when they get on this path, because whoever they were, they don't want to be anymore, and whoever they want to be, they don't know yet, right? And that can be scary. Next question: how attached are you to specific labels like successful or expert or leader or helper or intelligent? Those are some examples: successful, expert, leader, helper, intelligent. Successful, I am attached to it because I want to be successful, right? Expert, I'm not attached to. I struggle to even see myself as an expert, even though I've been doing certain things for 20 years. I struggle to see myself as an expert, even when it comes to this healing thing. I tell everybody, I'm not an expert. We're growing together. You are an expert on your own life. Excuse me. So I'm not that attached to expert. I am very much attached to leader. In many parts of my life, I did not want to be a leader. But fortunately or unfortunately, I had all the foundational skills that a leader has. It's vision, it's opinion, it's effort, it's sacrifice, it's listening, it's communicating. It's a bunch of different things that help shape how you are as a leader. So I do see myself as a leader. One of the reasons I do this is because as I lead myself to the best version of myself, I understand that I will be blessed with a flock that will follow my guidance and my leadership. I've supervised numerous of people, and they had to follow my guidance and leadership. So I am very much attached to that. Helper. I can be, but I'm not always. Sometimes I don't have the emotional availability to be a helper, right? Sometimes being a helper can be dangerous. So my attachment to being seen as a helper is situational. Situational. I don't always see myself as a helper, nor do I always want to be seen as a helper. Intelligent. I am very much attached, even though I try to play it low key. I don't like the people to feel like I'm smarter than them or anything like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I'll be like, I'm just like you guys. But that's not necessarily because I've put in a lot of effort to study and learn and done the things that learned men do. So I am attached to knowing. And for me, knowing is reflection of my intelligence. So are you attached to these labels? And how attached are you to these labels? Last question, family. Do these identities define my sense of self? Right, wrong, or indifferent? Yes, they do. It's funny because today is my stepfather's birthday. And I called him and he told me he was under the weather over the weekend and wound up having to go to the hospital. And I was hurt that I didn't know. And I said to him, well, when things like that happen, let me know so I can figure out a way to be a good son. And that title or role does define my sense of self. I do try to be a good son, whatever that means. I also try to be a good leader, a good lover, a good friend. I do all these things. They do define my sense of self. It bothers me if I do not feel like I am making my best efforts to be a good son. I bring up all the time how, man, as a parent, as a child, we got to honor thy mother and father. And I do my best to try to do that. Right? I do my best as a son to try to honor my mother and father. And that honor is how I define my sense of self. Regardless on what they were to me, I still have to be a good son. Whether they were good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I still want to be a good son because I'm in charge of my own life. So, that last question again, family. Do these identities define your sense of self? Let me know. All right, family. We're going to wrap that up. It's been a great episode. I'm glad that you can join. Hopefully you have some questions that made you think, right? And you'll be able to assess how you are functioning within your image ego. So next week, we will do the knowledge ego. We'll be able to assess the knowledge ego. And we may do a couple other things. Thursday, we will continue putting our puzzles together of the Iron Man mask. It's a 3D puzzle, and I'm having the time of my life putting it together. It is wild, but it's difficult. But we're doing it puzzle, so you can join us on Book Club Thursday. Well, it's not book club, but you join us Thursday night, where we do a little poetry, we do a bunch of things, just to be able to connect with that childlike energy in us. And then, if you can't make it Thursday, I hope to see you back here Tuesday. Tuesday, we will be in Wilmington, I believe. We're going to Wilmington, family. Woo, 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 woo. So we'll be on the road again. August will be, I think we should be in the house for the month of August, but September, we back on the road again. I think we might be in Tennessee. So, but join us Wednesday. We might do it on the beach. I don't know. Y'all love the beach. I love the beach too. But join us Tuesday while we're in Wilmington. See you Thursday for Soul Swami, and we're building our puzzle. I appreciate the time, the energy, and the support that you give to the channel and yourself. You help build this community, and I appreciate that, and I value that. You could be anywhere in this world, but you choose to be here with us, making great things happen. And gratitude, I appreciate that. And with that, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy. And peace, family.